So, when I was recording my last video on movies that I had seen in 2015 so far, I completely forgot that I had gone to see Home, which already tells you what a great movie it was. I honestly didn't want to see it. I expected to hate it, but this friend of mine at the time was like just a huge fanatic when it came to animated films. She really wanted to see it, and I just said, all right. And after watching it, that was pretty much what I had to say about the movie. It was all right. I honestly didn't hate it. 2015 really seems to be the year for movies that are worth seeing just once. There were a lot of moments in it that I thought were really funny, and it had some heartfelt scenes in it that I thought worked pretty well. Um, and as for Jim Parsons doing the voice of the alien in the movie, he is easily way more likable than Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory, in case you're concerned about that. But as for things that, made it a one and done sort of deal for me, um, a couple of problems that I had with it. For one thing, it ran for way too fucking long. Sorry, I shouldn't really be cussing when I'm talking about a family movie. I'll try to make that the only one. But yeah, I mean, I just looked it up on IMDb to confirm what the running time was, and it's only like 94 minutes. It felt like I had been sitting there for 2 hours or more because there are some scenes in it where it slows down way too much and you can just feel it dragging on. It honestly felt like they were just trying to add filler to make it an average running time, but I mean, there are a lot of animated films out there that run for under 90 minutes or even under 80 minutes and they still work. Um, so yeah, that was one problem. And then the thing that really bothered me, and I'm not giving away any spoilers here, but at the end, there's a scene where they give way too much exposition. There's a moment where you can see everything that's happening, and it was pretty easy for me to figure out what was going on. I wasn't even like tilting my head for a second, going, wait, what's that? I was like, oh, okay, I see. But then one of the characters turns around and explains in full detail exactly what just happened there, as if to he might as well have been turning around to the audience and said, "Hello, you're stupid, so I'm going to tell you exactly what just happened because you couldn't figure it out, obviously." Yeah, that really bugged me. So, in the end, it's not god awful, really. I'm not trying to shit on this film, but if you haven't seen it and you're thinking about buying it when it comes out, whether it's for yourself or for your children if you have any, I would seriously suggest getting it from Redbox first to find out if you or these said children would like it before you shell out your hard earned money on a DVD or Blu ray. Anyway, moving on to a film that is worth shelling out your hard earned money on, Inside Out. And that right there pretty much already told you how I felt about this movie, so the review's over. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I'll talk about a little why I can't even talk straight. I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about why I thought it was worth spending money on and why I will be buying it when it comes out in stores. Um, First off, the story, a lot of other reviewers have been avoiding as much as possible spoiling the plot too much, which is pretty much the same as what I'm going to do here. It involves this little girl who is going through a big change in her life, and the film primarily follows these emotions that are running around inside her head, which are, sort of physically manifested on screen. You've got all of the main ones, like you've got joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. And, first of all, when it comes to the animation, I mean, it's Pixar, so of course it looks great, but one thing that kind of made this stand out for me was just the way that the emotion characters were designed in the film. Um, as I was looking at them, I noticed that they had like these little bits of self that were kind of sticking out of their forms. And at first glance, I thought that they were supposed to look like they were made of felt for some reason, which was odd, but I was okay with it. But after a while, I started to realize they were actually made up of these little pinpricks of light that were just sort of coming together to make up their bodies, almost like how our atoms make up our bodies. So I thought that was really cool to look at. Um, as far as the comedy goes, it is just as funny as the trailers and commercials would suggest. There were two main highlights for me when it came to the humor. One was the character of Anger, easily the funniest in the whole movie. And of course, it didn't hurt that he was being voiced by Lewis Black, who is one of my all time favorite comedians. Um, and then the other one, as soon as this movie's over, I would suggest sticking around for the credits for about a minute because they have some really funny things to show there as well. Um, and then, of course, as is the case with any great family film, uh, it does tug at the heartstrings quite a bit. There were a couple of moments during the final act where it managed to make me tear up a bit. And the character dynamics were really interesting because this movie really doesn't have like a flat out not antagonist, but it doesn't have like a flat out villain to speak of. There's a point where Anger very nearly becomes the villain of the movie, which can pretty much be expected. There were even some moments where it felt like Joy was becoming the bad guy in the movie. And then, technically, you could consider Sadness to be the antagonist of the film because the definition of an antagonist is the character who keeps things from moving forward. But again, nobody's really the bad guy here. They've all just got their own motivations and their own ways of doing things in hopes of making everything better. Um, and going back to the subject of, tugging on the heartstrings. Excuse me. This isn't a criticism of the film itself, but more of the experience as a whole. My one complaint about this theatrical experience was, as is the case with every Pixar movie and now every Disney movie, there was a little animated short that played before the film called Lava, and I thought it was the absolute worst short that Pixar has produced so far. The story in it was garbage. The lava puns were even worse. It was kind of cringeworthy. But there was one moment in that short where it managed to make me cry like a little baby. Even at their worst writing, Pixar still manages to have an effect on me, which is pretty impressive, I have to admit. Um, Although I haven't seen Cars 2, which I heard is their worst movie, nor do I have any interest in it because it's about talking cars. Anyway, in the end, I think it goes without saying that Inside Out comes highly recommended. As far as animated films of the year go, it's a lot better than Home. Anyway, with that, I hope you all have a good one.